In a world that glorifies hustle, pressure, and constant striving, it feels almost counterintuitive to slow down, breathe, and surrender. But there's a quiet wisdom in letting go, a power in relaxing your grip on how things must happen. When you relax, you return to your natural state in trust, and in trust, the impossible begins to move. We often chase outcomes with the belief that stress and force will bring results faster, but in truth, tension blocks clarity, worry clogs intuition, and desperation delays blessings. Life isn't meant to be wrestled into submission. It's meant to be aligned with. You are not here to fight for every miracle. You are here to receive them with open hands and a calm spirit. When you allow instead of resist, when you breathe instead of panic, when you believe instead of doubt, you make space for the extraordinary to enter. This is not passive waiting. This is conscious relaxation, a deep inner stillness that says, I trust what's coming, even if I can't see it yet. Think about nature. The river doesn't struggle to flow. The flower doesn't push itself to bloom. There is no anxiety in the stars about how they'll shine. There is only rhythm. There is only surrender. And in that surrender, everything flourishes. You are part of that same intelligence. You are meant to rise, not through effort alone, but through energy, alignment, and ease. There's a reason your deepest desires were planted in you. You wouldn't have the vision if you didn't also have the power to bring it to life. But sometimes that power doesn't look like work. It looks like letting go of timelines, letting go of fear, letting go of the belief that miracles are reserved for others. When you relax, you align. When you align, you allow. Not. And when you allow, even the impossible starts to manifest. We live in a culture that constantly pushes the idea that if you're not grinding, to whisper not, you're falling behind. We've been conditioned to believe that rest is synonymous with laziness, that pausing means weakness, and that every moment must be filled with noise, productivity, or pursuit. But the truth is, relaxation isn't the absence of ambition, it's the presence of trust. Trust in the timing of your life, trust in the unseen forces working behind the scenes. Trust that what is meant for you is already finding its way, even when you're not chasing it down. When you allow yourself to relax, but you're not quitting the journey. You're creating space for alignment. You're stepping back so life can step forward. You're quieting the chaos so your intuition can speak. This isn't about giving up, it's about tuning in. The most powerful movements in life often happen in stillness. Ideas form in silence. Healing begins in rest. Clarity arises when the noise dies down. Relaxation, then, is not a passive escape. It's an intentional return to center. Trusting the process doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing your part, then releasing the obsession with control. It means planting your seeds, tending to your energy, and knowing that growth doesn't always show on the surface right away. Some of the most important progress happens underground, hidden from view, building roots. Not. When you relax, you're affirming that the foundation is already being laid. You're acknowledging that there's more happening than what your eyes can see. There is wisdom in not pushing. There is courage in allowing. There is strength in surrender. Relaxation is the art of giving yourself permission to breathe, to step aside from the storm, to let things unfold without force. It's where tension dissolves, where creativity returns, and where peace becomes your power. Stress, though often mistaken for motivation, is actually the body and mind bracing against life. It tightens your thoughts, clouds your judgment, and contracts your energy. When you're in a state of stress, you're not moving forward with clarity. You're pushing, forcing, and often grasping at outcomes that feel further away the harder you try. Stress creates resistance because it operates from fear. Fear that time is running out, to whisper not, that you're not enough, that things won't work out unless you control every detail. That energy becomes a barrier. It sends the message that you don't trust the process, and in doing so, it creates friction between you and the very things you're trying to bring into your life. Calm, on the other hand, is not passive. It's active presence. It's into whisper. It's intentional awareness. Calm says, I know what I want, but I don't need to panic to get there. It allows you to act from alignment rather than reaction. In a calm state, You're not ruled by urgency. You're guided by wisdom. Your energy is open, your heart is steady, and your actions are clear. That's when life begins to move with you, not against you. Flow begins when resistance ends, and resistance ends when stress is replaced with stillness. People often confuse effort with effectiveness. But there is a vast difference between frantic action and focused energy. When you're stressed, you're often busy but unproductive, scattered instead of strategic. Calm invites flow because it allows you to hear the quiet cues, the intuitive nudges, the inspired thoughts, the signs that point you in the right direction. In a calm state, you're not trying to force doors open, you're noticing which ones are already unlocked. Stress keeps you stuck in survival mode, where everything feels like a threat or a race. Calm places you back into creation mode, where possibilities expand and paths become visible. Flow cannot exist in a clenched spirit. It needs breath. It needs openness. It needs the space that calm creates. The energy you put out into the world matters far more than the words you speak. You can say all the right things, make all the right moves, even repeat affirmations 100 times a day. But if your underlying energy is rooted in desperation, doubt, or fear, you're trained to whisper. Not that is what you're truly communicating. The universe doesn't respond to pleading or panic. It responds to belief. The kind of belief that lives deep in your body, in your actions, in your choices. Begging sends a signal of lack, of scarcity, of not trusting that what you desire is already on its way. Belief, however, signals certainty. It says, I know it's mine. I know it's coming. Not, I don't need to force it because I already feel its presence. When you beg, you often come from a place of convincing, trying to convince the universe, trying to convince others, and often trying to convince yourself. But belief doesn't need to convince. Belief walks with quiet confidence. It moves without needing proof. It shows up before the evidence appears. That's the energy that creates momentum. That's the vibration that turns thoughts into form. You don't attract what you want through worry. You attract what you expect through certainty. And that expectation has to be embedded in your mindset, your habits, your self-talk, and your willingness to allow rather than control. Begging also keeps you in a state of separation from your desires. It reinforces the idea that what you want is far away, above you, or outside of your reach. Belief, on the other hand, collapses that distance. It brings your desires into your current emotional reality. When you believe something is meant for you, you begin to embody it. You think from it. You speak as it's already part of your life. And in doing so, you become a match for the very thing you once chased. That alignment is what draws people, opportunities, and experiences to you, not out of pity or chance, but because your belief reshapes your reality. The shift happens the moment you stop trying to force the outcome and start living in the energy of already having it. That seemed to whisper the power is not in trying harder, but in believing deeper. There's a profound difference between pushing and aligning, though at a glance they might look the same. Force is rooted in pressure, in the need to make something happen regardless of timing, flow, or readiness. It comes from a place of fear. Fear that if you don't act now, you'll lose your chance, that if you're not controlling every piece, things will fall apart. Force is exhausting. It drains your energy because you're trying to bend reality to your will, even when the situation, the people, or the conditions aren't in harmony with your intention. It's like trying to row a boat upstream, possible for a while, but eventually unsustainable. Alignment, on the other hand, is the power of being in sync. It doesn't ignore effort, it amplifies it. But it amplifies only what matches your inner truth. Not when you're aligned, your energy, your thoughts, and your actions are all moving in the same direction. There's no inner tug of war, whisper not. You're not chasing things out of panic or self-doubt. You're drawing them in because your frequency matches your desire. Whisper not. You know when to act and when to wait. You're not scattered, you're strategic. You're not frantic, you're focused. In alignment, even the smallest actions become powerful because they're coming from a place of clarity and self-trust. Force is often driven by ego, the voice that tells you things must happen your way, your timeline, or not at all. Alignment is driven by intuition, the voice that whispers even when logic can't see it yet. It's a quieter path to whisper not, but it's the one that leads to results that last because they're built on resonance, not resistance. Force tends to create temporary wins at the cost of long-term peace. Alignment creates sustainable progress, not the kind that feels right not just on the outside but in your soul. When you're aligned, opportunities start to meet you halfway. Turn to whisper not. You're not dragging your dreams across the finish line. You're meeting them where they naturally rise. You start to notice how things click into place without force, how people show up without you chasing, how without to whisper, how the right steps appear without needing to be wrestled into existence. This isn't luck. It's the natural result of being in harmony with who you are and what you truly want. One of the greatest obstacles to receiving what we desire is our obsession with the how. We want the roadmap, the guarantees, the precise sequence of events. We want to know how it's all going to come together, how the dots will connect, how the door will open, how the people will show up. But the truth is the how is rarely ours to control. It belongs to a higher intelligence. One that sees further than we can seem to whisper not. One that orchestrates timing, alignment, and opportunity in ways we often can't predict. When you cling to the how, you limit yourself to only what you can currently imagine, cutting off all the other possibilities that might be even better, even more efficient, even more magical. The real power lies in staying anchored to the why you want what you want, why it matters to you, why your soul feels pulled in that direction. The why is your purpose, it's your emotional compass, it's the fuel behind your desire. And when your why is clear and strong, it becomes magnetic. It pulls people, ideas, and opportunities toward you without you having to constantly chase them. The why roots you in authenticity. It reminds you of your vision when doubt creeps in. It keeps you steady even when the path is unclear. Letting go of the how doesn't mean you give up on action. It means you surrender the illusion of control. You still show up. You still take steps, but you stop micromanaging the outcome. You trust that if you keep your energy aligned with your purpose, the path will reveal itself. Often, it will appear in ways you never expected, through chance encounters, subtle shifts, or sudden clarity. That's the beauty of release. It opens doors you didn't even know existed. The why also connects you to your emotional truth. When you stay focused on why something matters to you, your actions become infused with sincerity and depth. You stop performing and start living. You stop rushing and start resonating. And that kind of energy has its own gravity. It draws in what matches it, not through force or control, but through connection and trust. Holding on to the how creates pressure, anxiety, and rigid expectations. But holding on to the why creates devotion, motivation, and inner peace. It allows you to stay present, to trust in divine timing, and to keep moving forward with a heart full of clarity, even when your mind doesn't yet have the answers. In a world that thrives on instant gratification, patience can feel like a foreign language. We've grown used to quick fixes, rapid responses, and overnight results. We expect our goals to manifest on demand and our desires to arrive without delay. But real transformation, deep fulfillment, and meaningful success do not unfold on a fast track. They require time, trust, and unwavering patience. Patience isn't about sitting idly. It's about standing steady in faith when nothing seems to be moving. It's a quiet strength, a discipline of the heart, a conscious choice to believe in timing greater than your own. Patience is the ability to hold your vision even when the evidence hasn't shown up yet. Seem to whisper not, it's continuing to show up, to work, to believe, even when progress feels invisible. To whisper not, it's resisting the urge to give up or to force outcomes just because you haven't seen the results you hoped for. The truth is, much of what's growing in your life is happening underground, beneath the surface, where roots are forming and foundations are being laid. Patience allows you to honor that unseen progress. It says, I don't need to see it yet to know it's real. There is a certain grace that comes with patience. It softens the edge of desperation. It quiets the noise of comparison. It silences the panic that someone else is getting ahead while you're being left behind. Patience teaches you that your timing is sacred and that rushing never brings peace. It reminds you that anything worth building, whether it's a dream, a relationship, a healing journey, or a new version of yourself, requires seasons of waiting, refining, and becoming. Patience also builds emotional resilience. It teaches you how to breathe through discomfort and uncertainty. It helps you stay grounded when things don't unfold the way you thought they would. It keeps you from settling for quick, temporary solutions that don't align with your deeper purpose. When you are patient, to whisper, not, you are powerful, not because you are doing less, but because you are trusting more. You're letting life move at its natural rhythm. You're making peace with the pauses. You're choosing trust over urgency, surrender over struggle, and long-term alignment over short-term satisfaction. There's an undeniable energy that radiates from someone who is at peace with themselves. It's not loud, it's not forced, and it doesn't need to prove anything. It's the kind of calm confidence that draws people in without effort. Peace is magnetic because it signals wholeness. It shows that a person is no longer searching outside themselves for validation, approval, or completion. Instead, they've found stability within. And that kind of presence is rare in a world that constantly tries to distract, rush, and unbalance us. When you're at peace, you stop chasing energy that doesn't match your frequency. You no longer feel compelled to beg for love, attention, or recognition because you already know your worth. You move through life with intention rather than desperation. You listen more than you react. You observe without judgment. And that level of emotional regulation doesn't just protect your spirit, it makes you powerful. People are drawn to calm the way they're drawn to still water. There's a whisper, not, there's clarity there. There's reflection. There's depth. Being at peace doesn't mean you have everything figured out. It doesn't to whisper. It doesn't mean you're exempt from stress or untouched by challenges. Need to whisper it. What it does mean is that you've built a relationship with yourself that's rooted in trust. You've learned how to return to center, how to stay grounded when everything around you feels uncertain. And that inner balance becomes your anchor. It becomes your light. It becomes the quiet force that magnetizes the right people, the right moments, and the right opportunities toward you. Because like attracts like, peace sharpens your intuition. It helps you distinguish between what feels good and what only looks good. It clears the fog of anxiety so you can recognize real connections, aligned decisions, and authentic purpose. When you are at peace, you are no longer governed by fear. You no longer operate from lack. And that shift in energy is transformative. You begin to make choices from love, not need, not. You begin to move with faith, not force. You begin to trust that what is meant for you will come. Not because you're chasing it, to whisper, not, but because you're aligned with it. There's a calm strength in knowing you don't have to compete, impress, or control to be worthy. That strength speaks louder than words. It tells the world I am enough, as I am. And that truth doesn't just echo within you. It resonates with everything around you. So let this be your quiet revolution, not to push harder, but to trust deeper. Not to chase, but to align, but to stress, but to surrender. When you relax into who you are and believe in what is meant for you, life begins to unfold in ways far beyond your imagination. The impossible becomes possible, not because you forced it, but because you finally allowed it.